So, today I want to talk about how some characters, or to be exact their weapons, are better or in some cases even worse than you might think. Especially if most of your info comes from CN related sources, as Global is in fact actually a very different game when it comes to balancing. Why? Well, we will find that out together right after you follow me on Twitch, aka twitch.tv/SyNo_live. I'm probably doing relatively frequent Power of Fantasy streams, so if you like what you see, drop by. Anyway, time to look at what changed in regards to our favorite SSR weapons compared to the Chinese server. And of course, we do have to start with the most controversial, the most popular, and also the, for now, most limited and also only limited character weapon, Nemesis, who is most likely the imposter, at least compared to her Chinese sister, who proudly boasts a 20% volt resonance, which is a bit more than what we got, to be exact, 5% more. But do not worry, because this is most likely a consequence of our dear global devs trying to casual down the general difficulty of pretty much all content. So obviously all the early on OP-ish stuff is going to end up being collateral of the great balancing. Speaking of that, apparently she still seemed too intimidating, so they actually once again ganged up on her by reducing the resistance part of her resonance, and even worse, her 3-star from almost 390% to now only barely 200, almost splitting the worth of this upgrade in half. But that was still not enough, so they once again kicked her in the shin, which resulted in Nemesis dropping her ice cream, causing her 5-star upgrade to reduce its damage modifier by half. Truly unfortunate, but it is what it is, making Nemesis the first nerfed character on today's agenda. But once again, don't worry, this doesn't mean she's bad on global. Quite the opposite actually, as she's still pretty much the strongest character you can get right now, which is the main catch here. All of this just means that she's not going to be the most insane investment considering the future, so unless you're a huge high voltage fan, you might want to think about something else. Like for example the changes made to Cocoritter. No? Well, you're gonna get them shoved into your face anyway. And yes, they just cranked up all the numbers. I'm talking normal attack, air attack, dodge attack, attack, and of course, Tesseract. But that's not really all, at least for all of my whales out there, as Coca-Cola gets just more healing on 6-star for free on global. So that's great, meaning overall Coca is slightly better here, making her our first buffed character. Woohoo! Hell yeah! Which means it's time to change things up and look at the newest role of Rie Takahashi, Huma and her shield, that sadly couldn't protect her from having no changes at all. Yes, nothing. Not even a small percent point. Which is the complete opposite for everyone's second favorite cringe lord, or third if you count me in. Black Feather Birdman. Well, they went completely crazy on him, giving him some serious numbers. I'm talking about 40% on his last normal attack and pretty much 20%-ish on everything else. Except, here comes the bummer, his dive attack, which actually got a slight punch to his chin, bumping it down all the way from 72 to 42%. Problem here is that was his main gameplay style, you know, diving around, so clearly the devs are trying to change that, forcing you into a more traditional gunfight with knives scenario. But considering literally everything he has got a huge buff, I'm sure Mr. Kata Zoomer is going to do quite a fine job for the time being, making him the second overall buffed character on global. So to keep the current pattern fresh and steady, let's look at someone who's going to completely shock you. Cause I can only describe this as everything changed. Exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark. Okay, fine. I lied. King has no changes at all. So his future ain't changing as well, aka he's going to be good till 2.0, and then he will sadly get beaten up and sent to a retiring home by a small little girl with a Chunibyo syndrome. But don't worry about him, I'm sure he's gonna do fine. Unlike Shiro, who is always suffering from some kind of skill issue. But not this time around, as she got an amazing, crazy, unbelievable change of 3 to 5% more modifier on all of her stuff, so yeah. She's our first buff character in theory, if only slightly. Which is meh. Her only saving grace is sadly just going to be Claudia. So if you're into cat girls, save for the dummy mommy military girlfriend. Okay, that sounded kinda weird, so I'm going to distract you by moving on very fast, just like Meryl spins around all day. Cause she's happy her greatsword is even greater now, thanks to a slight buff to her different types of attacks, a pretty sizable one to her spin to win and also dance routine, and some serious extra damage for her ultimate that is still going to do more harm than good to all of your teammates. But regardless of that, she's our 4th buff character for Global, which we are going to follow up with someone nobody actually likes and wants 0 copies of. Zero, which has not 0 changes, but instead some slight damage increases. Okay, who cares? Is what I would want to say if I didn't already know that's not all. Cause if you're rich in personality, I would appreciate if you would follow me on Twitch, cause I'm trying to stream daily. And if you're rich, you might have 0 5 stars. No, 0's 5 star, which actually now on Global gives him a healing buff on top of the damage buff, making him even more of a, in future, great SSR relic. Crazy times. Because as you might have realized, we're not only lacking in skill, but also nerfs. So here's one of the biggest ones. Samir with her outside of the US illegal firearms. Yeah. This is just rough. To be fair, it was quite obvious that she would be nerfed compared to CN, you know what I mean, because we also have Nemesis right on release, making her even stronger, so they just had to do it to her, but they did her really dirty. AKA, her normal attack is reduced by 5 to 10%, her drive-by abilities won't even scratch a window now with these 2 whole % less, and her kick is still alive and kicking, I guess. But her spin... Look at how they massacred my boy. Not only did the damage get reduced by thankfully only 5%, they also slapped 70 more endurance as cost onto it. Which makes her so much more reliant on getting all the shrooms, though she's our 2nd nerfed character so far. But don't worry, if you wanna be the very best right now, she is still very good for approximately at least the next like 3, maybe even 4 months, and also pretty decent after that, which is also the case for our already last character, Tsubasa. And to say it outright, this might be one of the so far worst cases when it comes to nerfs for the global version compared to the CN servers. Her attacks do slightly less now, same thing for her skill and especially her ult, but all of that doesn't really matter, at least not as much as the core piece of her whole being, which was absolutely turned down a notch, okay, a couple of notches, as instead of a potential 24% damage buff on 1 star, you only get 15, meaning at max stars you will have in result only have access to 25 instead of the before very juicy 40%, meaning she lost a potential 15% of buffing goodness, which is still fine. She might not be completely broken now or the most insane general damage support, but she's still good and a pretty decent long-term investment. So who cares? Me. Because you should look out for people relying too much on CN meta related stuff. No, I also kinda do it sometimes, but there's going to be a lot of changes in the meta. We're probably not gonna get Mark and Bai, so electro teams will suffer more and we will actually need tanks and healing after some time. And Tsubasa is not as insane as people make her out to be, plus Samir, or to be fair the whole Volt comp in general, has even less time to shine until Fire and Ice, and eventually also Physical will power creep the hell out of your tower featuring fantasy. But I hope you at least know now what to consider when looking at CN info. Characters might be a bit better long term than others, aka none besides Nemesis and maybe Tsubasa, and that you clicked that like and sub button. Make sure to follow me on Twitch to see me suffer from skill issues live on stream, and if you want to see anything specific, leave it in the comments down below. And also a huge thanks to my channel members. Thank you guys so much for supporting me, and an extra huge shout out to Asfi. But that was not all from me, and see you next time.